The low incomes are the richest ones. How difficult is it to have an automized process, especially in time of AI? If one country already has it perfectly, why we don't learn from the other countries? Why every country needs to have its own way of doing things? There are a lot of people switching from the commercial side to the authorities. Why? I think we live in a time where people find time more important than work. Quality is really important, time is really important, and as an indirect result of that, money will come automatically. A tax advisor is like more important than your partner. I can guide you to the financial process, administration process, because this is the most important thing when something happens in our life. Sometimes buying a Porsche could be more beneficial than buying maybe a Volkswagen, for example. We got the whole other world which is paying taxes. They could easily move to Dubai to pay zero taxes. Why no one else would do it?
Ferhat, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me. Thanks.
Feels like we already did the whole podcast before the...
We did, indeed.
Yeah, we talked about cars, we talked about taxes, we talked about everything.
We did a lot in 1 hour of time, so it feels good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of a background. Today we want to talk about taxes, tax evasion, tax avoidance. What's the difference? What can people do as people coming to the Netherlands or in general?
Yes.
The topic Dubai pops up very often, especially for finfluencers. So give us a quick introduction. Who are you in the first place?
First place, I'm Ferhat Sanci. Born and raised in the Netherlands, graduated on taxes, so I'm a tax advisor. In the meantime, doing a lot more than only taxes. We have an office together with my business partner where we support both individuals as well as business clients from A to Z, starting from the bookkeeping, going up to the tax applications, tax advisory, payroll, 30% rule. So everything related to taxes and businesses. On the same side, I'm a father of 3 children, married for a long time, 12 years in the meantime, maybe even longer. I don't know the exact date. I hope my wife doesn't look. Car fanatic. We talked quite a lot about it in a short time. So that's me. And I hope today, we can talk about taxes. I can explain a lot of things which I know, especially about the Dubai topic, especially for people who are moving from the Netherlands outside or outside of the Netherlands to the Netherlands. So that's me a little bit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You have a very interesting background, which is you actually started working for the Belastingdienst, which is the tax authority in the Netherlands. Is that correct?
Not started. Actually, I started working for EY, Ernst & Young. That was back in 2011, as far as I can remember, during my study, because I had a delay during my study. In the last year, I was not able to finalize one thing. So I started for EY at that time. At a certain moment after finalizing my study, I continued to work for EY. And at the same time, I think it was in 2014 to be precise, I switched over to the tax authorities because I just wanted to see the other side of the story. I went to the Belastingdienst for 3 months, where after the partner of EY messaged me at that time, like, hey, when are you coming back? Because he knew some way that the authorities were not something for me. I was too commercial. I was a totally different person than, working for the authorities. And he somehow knew, so he sent me a message. And at that time, that triggered me, giving him a call, prepare my laptop, I'm coming back tomorrow. So I went back to EY at that time, where after one of the biggest clients of EY moved over to Deloitte. And then I also moved to Deloitte because of my experience. Finally, end of 2017, I decided to fully work on my own and created my company Pro Financials together with my business partner. I did an intern, by the way, for the tax authorities before EY, but that was an internship. So maybe when you look on my LinkedIn profile, you could see that part. That's the reason maybe a lot of people think I started with the authorities. Yeah. But that was an internship, which I do not fully see as a work time frame.
How does the Belastingdienst, the tax authorities, work here? You talked about it in the Dutch podcast, which we can also link in the description if people are interested.
Yeah.
You guys think they are very slow?
Yes.
I don't think so, because I come from Germany,
yeah.
where things are much more slower than here. But tell us, what was your experience working for them?
We got the experience working for them and we got the experience working with them right now, because I'm an advisor, so I'm also working with them on a daily basis where I need their help in processing the information that we are giving. The main thought I still have about the authorities, and I'm sorry guys, is they are slow, yes. They are too slow. And I don't know why, to be honest. It's like when you send them a letter, you sometimes don't receive a reply back.
Yeah.
When you send them a letter, it takes weeks. I think a lot of people listening to this podcast, the 30% application, for example, sometimes could take like 3 months. How difficult is it to arrange a process which can be done automatically? Because the facts are all known, the questions are all known, the answers are known. So how difficult is it to have an automized process, especially in time of AI?
Yeah.
You know, where you can manage things very quickly and quickly can decide like this person meets the criteria or not. And I can imagine with special cases that they need more time for it. But then I would at least say like assign someone with which you can talk with. The thing is that the authorities are untransparent. You send them a letter, but you don't know who's going to pick up that letter. You don't know where it is. Even if you call them, they don't even know themselves, like who is the one who's going to take care of your letter.
Yeah.
And because of that, it causes a whole delay, unfortunately, in the whole process where you cannot manage where it is, when it will be picked up, and who's responsible for it. And still, it's going on like many years. It was also at the time that I was there, and still, it's still happening at this moment, unfortunately. Which means when the client is contacting us, we are the one, because we do something, but we can't give them answers because the authorities is not replying back to us. So we mostly are the one who's giving or who's getting all the negative energy when something is being delayed in the whole process.
What do you think is the underlying cause for this?
People
working for the tax authorities?
There are not enough people working for the authorities. One. Secondly, systems. The systems are backdated. That's something for sure we know. They even presented themselves. Giving you an example, savings and investments.
Yeah.
Box 3 system in the Netherlands. There were court decisions like in 2024 for 2 times. This is a system which has been changed like a few years back, and since 2011, they're still busy changing this whole system. When you look at it, and I wanted to explain it in a correct way, that's the reason I'm thinking slowly. When you look to the system and there was a court decision in 2024, and the same court decision was also there in 2023, they know something needs to be changed with the Box 3 system, with the savings and investments. But what they did now is they gave a message, they even sent letters to taxpayers, like we're going to change the law, but it will happen in 2027. Now recently, a month back, they sent another message, it's not going to be 2027, it's going to be 2028. Like 4 years from now on. And the reason? Systems. They kind of confirmed it. It's because of our systems. They are not ready to process such information based on the court decision. So the systems is the biggest problem that the authorities right now has to be able to manage what is happening right now. And if one system for one topic, Box 3 topic, is already taking 4 years, how long will it take to do all the others?
Yeah.
And that happens for many years. That is the biggest problem I think they have.
Why don't they invest in better systems? Is it?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
They spend a lot of money on a lot of things which we are paying at the end of the line as taxpayers, but that's the only thing somehow they are not able to. And that's the funny thing I think on the whole world which is happening. We have a few countries which I can mention, everything is being managed perfectly. Like Poland, for example, they have managed everything perfectly, smoothly, everything is clear. And I think like if one country already has it perfectly, why we don't learn from the other countries? Why we don't ask them like, hey guys, how did you manage this? Why are we not copy-pasting things? Especially money laundering and that kind of things. We're all trying to find out our own way of solving things.
Yeah.
And of course it's more difficult that I'm saying here. It takes a lot of more experience, to convert things into one system. But why, we're Europe, why not all the tax systems are the same? why it should be that difficult to manage things overall, and why every country needs to have its own way of doing things, especially when it comes to systems, why we cannot manage it like in one system all overall. Like these are things which you're thinking about as an advisor. And finally, you know, you're blaming the Dutch authorities, like, hey guys, why it takes so much time to change the systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think also the hiring process for the people working at the authorities is also a little bit, not rigged, but maybe broken?
No, I think they have like enough people wanting to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you look to their, to the workplaces that they have, and to the functions they're opening all the time, there are a lot of people switching from the commercial side to the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
That's also something which you can see in the advisory world. There is like a movement from big companies to the authorities.
I see.
Why? I think we live in a time where people find time more important than work. They prefer to work only 4 days or 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Quality time is more important than work time. So that is something which the Dutch tax authorities can give you.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. You know, they have good work hours. The salaries that you're receiving are quite well, to be honest. So it's a good compensation for the work that you actually perform and the time that you spend.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are moving finally from the commercial side to the authority side. But still, I'm like a company owner also. If the basis never changes, so we got the current people working and new people are coming in, the new people will automatically follow the old people.
Yeah.
It's an immediate effect of the case. So you either need to change everything at once, so the new people will be new actually, otherwise everything will remain the same. The culture will remain the same, the work will remain the same, the pressure will remain the same. So it will never change. You know, it's even with us, like if you look to 2017, the work culture that we have is still the same right now because, new people are following old people automatically. New people are being educated by the old people, so they automatically receive the same culture. So getting new people only will not solve their problem.
Yeah, that is true. But still, with all the relaxed environment at the tax authorities, you still decided to found your own company.
Yes.
What was the primary reason for that? Then from the entrepreneurial side, I would be quite interested to learn.
Yeah, you know, there comes a moment that you are getting more of an adult, also work-wise, and not as a person, but work-wise. And there comes a moment that the companies you're working for are not supporting your clients as you want to do it yourself. That was one of the biggest things with the Big Four, with Deloitte, with EY. I was really good in what I was doing. I was really experienced, and a lot of people confirmed that also all the time. But I was not always allowed to support the clients as I wanted. Why? Money. Something is either in scope or out of scope. And if the client doesn't want to pay, you're not allowed to support. So each time that you wanted to be proactive and each time that you wanted to support a client as you wanted, you could not do so because it was out of scope. So first you needed to go back to the client. Hey, do you approve that I'm going to charge you an X amount for doing this work? If not, then I'm not able to. Which blocked me at a certain way of giving quality work, because you can be good in what you're doing in a basis, but the added value is actually doing more upon that. So each time that I wanted to do more than the taxes, I was not allowed to because it blocked me in a certain way because the client didn't want to pay. Secondly, when you work for a Big Four or a mid-sized company, you're dealing with companies. You're dealing with multinationals. Multinationals always have employees. So the persons you're working with are the employees of the company. They are not the company owners, which means they don't care what you are doing as long as the work is being done. And if the work is being done, they don't care whether it's done correctly or not. It needs to be done, point out. So each time when you were doing something perfect, they just accepted it as it is because they're only an employee wanting that the work is being done. And that triggered me also at a certain time, like, you know, I'm constantly supporting the employees of the company. The thing that I'm doing, the advice that I'm giving, the quality of work that I'm giving, finally the stakeholders, the shareholders, they don't care because they don't even look at it. So I wanted to be more with my client itself. I really wanted to have an added value for the one behind the company. And with that decision, I decided to work on my own to support clients and do as if their company is mine. Like giving them the added value to make them grow, to make them bigger, so I could profit on the other side myself also. If I would continue for the big four, I would like my whole timeline would be like this. And now I can see it goes like that. Why? Because you're building a network, you're learning new people. On the other side, each year when you talk with your clients, they send you personal messages like, hey, have a good new year, for example. Or they're sending you presents. Sometimes they even call me and say like, I'm really happy with you, and that makes you feel like you're important. Well, with the big four, I could never imagine like one moment that an employee of them is calling me like, hey, Ferhat, you did well, because they don't care at the end of the line. So that's the reason I finally switched over to doing things on my own and to stay more with my client itself and not only with their employees.
Yeah, which I think is super valuable because comparing it to other tax advisors out there, they really only care about the numbers. So if the numbers are right, business is well. Yeah. But you take more the personal approach, kind of the...
For sure, 100%. Yeah, I'm a long-term thinker at all times.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah, because if today you're doing well and tomorrow you're not, I will be there when you're doing not well. That's more important for me than when you're doing well. Last week I had one Dutch client. He had a very rough time the last 3 months because there was a lot going on with him. And I was there for him each day, sending a message like, how are you today? And each week like, hey, is there something I can do for you? These are the moments that I should be there, not on the moments that you're paying me well or that you're doing well. For me, it's more important to guide you through the moment that you need me, because a tax advisor is like more important than your partner, I always say. You need to trust me more than your partner. When you're going to divorce, I need to be the one which is knowing that before your partner knows. Why? Because based on that, I can guide you to the financial process, administration process, because this is the most important thing when something happens in our life. If something is not well with you, whether it's health, whether it's stress, whether it's a burnout, whether the company is going bankrupt, finances are the most important thing, because the first thing that we always think about is money. If we don't have enough money tomorrow, what are we going to do? The stress will become bigger. So the most important thing in bad times is to manage making the best out of that time frame, but also looking forward to decide how am I going to manage my money in such a difficult time. If your health is not okay, or if you're in a burnout, what is going to happen the coming 12 months with my income? Am I going to be able to spend less hours on work to recover myself out of that burnout? These are all things that I'm looking at because I think that's more important than only looking to the invoice, the figures, and at the end of the line, the tax application that needs to be done.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that a lot about you because, as I said, like there's so many tax advisories out there that really chase the money, and you can feel it. With you, it's more like the personal approach and also the long-term thinking, which makes you very valuable. And I would say you're rather a successful entrepreneur. You have a lot of clients. And I think looking forward maybe 5-10 years, then people will you get a lot more clients just because based on that and word of mouth.
We'll see. I'm a long-term thinker, as I told you, but I'm also okay with the fact if everything remains the same as it is right now. I'm never chasing. There's also a discussion we had before the podcast, like where hopefully you're going to help me also again with other things. But the thing is, I never chased money. I think an average entrepreneur is chasing money, and then it goes wrong. Because if you chase money, your focus is money only. My focus is quality and people. If you can provide quality, if you can provide the support people need, money will come automatically. They will, one way or the other, they will give you the money that you earn. Because even with clients, I don't even ask for money. You know, it's like, you need my help, I'm willing to help. I don't talk about my hourly rate. Sometimes even, you know, clients are asking me like, how should I pay you? And then I'm forgetting that I need to send an invoice. And that's practically because for me, I like my job, I like my work, I like to talk with people, I like to support them. And especially with expats, by the way, I have a stronger connection. I think that's also good to mention here, because the reason that I'm born in the Netherlands is because my grandpa in 1963 came here from Turkey to the Netherlands to work here. That was the same period. They called it different at that time, you know, gastarbeider as they called it at that time. Also in Germany, a lot of Turkish people came. So I'm always thinking like that when I have an expat against me. I'm always thinking about my grandpa, and unfortunately I never met him, but my mother is always telling me and explaining me, like the first time that we came here, we didn't know even one word of Dutch. When we needed help, we could not even explain what our problem was. When we needed to do our tax applications, we didn't even know, for example. So all these stories, when I hear them and I'm dealing with expats, I'm treating them as they were my grandpa.
Yeah.
I'm treating them like, okay, they just came from another world to the Netherlands and they don't know how it goes here, even though everything nowadays is English, and you know, you can read a lot of things on the internet. We got ChatGPT, which is helping with a lot of things. We got the WhatsApp communities where people can ask questions. Each time when I'm having a client against me, the expat clients, I'm treating them like they don't know nothing. I'm treating them like, and don't understand me wrong, all the clients which are looking, I'm treating them as child. Like, this child don't know nothing. So I need to explain it from the very beginning how things are running and how things are working, so they will have a full understanding of the final conclusion that I'm giving you. Because if I give you a final conclusion, but you don't know where that conclusion is coming from, and tomorrow again you're talking with a friend which is saying a different outcome, you will not be able to manage the way that I thought about your situation. So that's, for me, people, quality is really important, time is really important. And as an indirect result of that, money will come automatically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked about, the different kind of advisories that exist not only in Eindhoven but also outside of Eindhoven.
Yes.
And with that comes a lot of maybe advisors, maybe they don't have any malicious intent, but they talk about Dubai, Portugal, Cyprus, for example, about ways to avoid taxes in a legal way, maybe in an illegal way, because they give the wrong advice.
Yeah.
How do you counter that? Because one of your things that you like to do in your free time is making videos, short videos on TikTok, for example, and one has gone particularly viral.
Yes.
Where you kind of, you didn't kind of went against him. It's more like you stated the facts. Like, what are the facts against what he actually proposed to the people who need tax advice? So what are some of the misconceptions that you see out there that people explain to their clients, which might bring them eventually to jail sometimes?
Indeed. What do you think yourself about it? If we talk about Dubai.
Dubai, for me, it's very attractive, but in the first moment, the first reaction is 0% tax, well, 9% corporate income tax.
Yeah.
Great.
Indeed.
I would do it immediately, but the thing is then if you open an account, I think there's a lot of follow-up problems.
Yeah.
So that's, again, long-term thinking Ferhat versus short-term
thinking
baby or like a child.
But the way you're saying is perfect. Like, you know, immediately when you look at the story, 0% of taxes, I would do it immediately.
Yeah.
If you would do it immediately, why not everyone will do it?
Yeah.
Why still there are 16 million people in the Netherlands paying taxes? Why there are still millions of companies in the Netherlands not doing the same as you want to do?
Yeah.
Why we got the whole other world which is paying taxes, and they could easily move to Dubai, all of them, to pay zero taxes. Why no one else would do it? And I think that's the relation to the reason of why I started with social media, with Instagram particularly at the beginning, TikTok finally, now we're going to YouTube also on the long term hopefully. The whole reason is that when we look to videos or when we look to social media in general, I can see that we have shortcuts of videos. One, we can never see when they are being recorded. You can see like the moment they are being posted if you look carefully, but when you look to reels, you can't easily see it. So one video could easily be like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And based on that, you could act. Secondly, they make things more perfect than it is. The only thing you hear is like 0% of tax in Dubai or Emirates or how you want to call it. The more important thing, you know, I always tell to my clients also, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to finances, you need to be careful. Because when I ask you a question about taxes, the question is not taxes only sometimes. There could be multiple laws applicable on one action.
Yeah.
It is the income tax that applies to you in person. That's you. It could be the corporate tax that applies on your BV, for example. It could be the wage tax that applies to your salary as an entrepreneur. It could be the corporate tax law that could apply to your business overall as being registered in the Netherlands. Yeah. A lot of things are coming here. So you're only asking me like 0% of taxes, but what kind of taxes we're talking about? That is like the very first question that we need to raise ourselves. Secondly, if everything was so perfect, why not everyone is doing it? Simply because each law, whether it's a national law or international law, and international law actually doesn't exist because it's a treaty, it's an agreement that we always have between two countries. We always start with local. And when we start with local, we always start looking at you as a person. Because the very first thing that we ask ourselves is when we have a company, who's running it, who's managing it? And if it is only you doing the management, running it, having the attorney to sign, then the law is also saying the company is following you because you're the only one managing the company. That means at the moment that you register a company in the Emirates, in Spain, in Cyprus, doesn't matter, it follows you. If you are still here, legally, it could be in Cyprus, it could be in the Emirates, it could be in Spain, but tax-wise, different law again, two different things, it's still here because you're here. So the only way that we can prevent this is some people, you know, they hire an office there, they put people there, they pretend to have a management outside of the Netherlands. So they move a little part of their money to one of those countries. You cannot do everything. It's always slices. Yeah. But if you do slices, it should outbalance the costs against the tax that you pay here in the Netherlands. On the other way, some people are easily looking to that video and they're acting immediately and they're opening, you know, and then the problems start. Because if you're still here, management is still here. So the second problem is treaties. And, you know, you're saying Dubai specifically, but nowadays a lot of people are moving to Cyprus and Spain. Also, Portugal is one of the favorite countries. But especially with the Emirates, and that's also something you can listen in my podcast with Lotgenoten, which I did, is the treaty with the Emirates only works on when you have an Emirates ID. You need to be an Emirati to make use of the treaty, which means this is like particularly which is happening. We have a holding, we have a BV in the Netherlands, and they pretend to exit the Netherlands. So they deregister at the municipality, they move to the Emirates, and they say, my company is still running in the Netherlands. I'm opening a free zone, for example, in the Emirates itself, in Dubai itself, and I'm transferring money from the Netherlands to the Emirates. So everything in the Netherlands is zero. Emirates, it's 0% of taxes. I don't need to pay taxes at all. The problem is that if you pay money from your holding to there, the treaty, the DGA-salaris as we call it, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I've heard of it before, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the salary you receive as a major shareholder of your holding. Yeah. So when you move money there, the agreement will say it's taxed there. But the agreement only works if you're an Emirati. Yeah. But if you're a Dutch citizen, the treaty doesn't work on you. So because the treaty doesn't work on you, it's still taxed in the Netherlands.
And then the problem just keeps, like there's a flywheel effect.
Yeah. the bubble becomes bigger because the people think, only because of moving there and keeping their Dutch company here in the Netherlands, because sometimes you need to, sometimes you cannot move your company simply there. In media we could do, in services we could do, but think about a transportation company which is having like 80 trucks here in the Netherlands. They cannot simply move their whole business to the Emirates, for example. That means the only way to escape from this is moving money from here to the Emirates. But if the treaty doesn't work on you because you're not an Emirati, you're failing because you still need to pay taxes here. So these are little general things. Of course, everything takes more of attention, and per person it could be different. But these are little things. When you look to social media, coming back to your question, we need to be careful. We should not act easily. And this doesn't apply to social media only. I think this also applies to WhatsApp groups where people are simply asking questions and they get an answer from 100 people who had an experience themselves, but they're not the professional. So when in a WhatsApp group, you're asking a question to someone, that person is answering it based on their own experience. Yeah. But maybe your situation is totally different than that. Yeah. So be careful. I think that's the only thing I can say to people. Yeah. Like pay attention, and no situation is the same. No situation is the same. Each outcome is different. Yeah.
So we had the Dubai topic. Are there any other misconceptions? For example, we also talked about in that Dutch podcast about the foundation, creating a foundation. But again, it depends on the kind of the dynamic and the structure of the company. Yes. But what other legal tax evasion schemes are there?
I think the most important one in general, also when we look to the international community, to say it properly, is that people think that when they register at the Dutch Chamber of Commerce, that they automatically are being treated as an entrepreneur for tax purposes also. And this is the biggest mistake a lot of people are making. A registration with the Dutch Chamber of Commerce, the Kamer van Koophandel, is for their law. When you're economically active, you need to register at the Dutch Chamber of Commerce. That's a registration. But it doesn't automatically say that you're also an entrepreneur for tax purposes. Because to be an entrepreneur for tax purposes, you need to meet certain criteria. You need to have profit expectations. You need to make investments in your company. You need to have risks. On a long term, you need to have a logo, an email address, a website. You should be open for the outside world as being a business. If you don't meet this criteria for tax purposes, you're not an entrepreneur. And this is also the whole law currently, or actually it's a law from 2016 which comes active now. The Dutch tax authorities are going to audit. It's like the ZZP, the sole owners, sole proprietors, which are only having one client, working 40 hours for one business, they're going to have problems because you could register, but if you only have one client the whole year long, you don't have any other clients and you're not open to accept any other clients, you cannot be treated as an entrepreneur. What does it mean? What do you think? If you think about yourself, you're also an entrepreneur. What do you think if you're not being considered as a...
I might lose a lot of benefits, ultimately.
Indeed, yeah. You lose all the benefits. We got the ondernemersaftrek, the startersaftrek, we got the MKB winstvrijstelling. These are all benefits altogether, maybe on an annual basis. It could be like 10K that we could lose. This, by the way, applies to sole proprietors, not to the BV owners. So if you think like only with the registration I'm becoming an entrepreneur, you're making a big mistake. Because at the end of the line, you're assuming that you're going to get benefits, but it's not. You need to do a lot more to be treated as an entrepreneur. The same applies for the BV owners, because now the whole mess up with this whole law in 2016 again, and now the authorities are going to audit. People think if I'm not a sole proprietor anymore, but I'm going to open a BV, because they say when you're having a BV, you are more important. Clients are treating you differently. That's like something commercial, in my opinion. because I have a lot of clients which are still a sole proprietor making more money than people in a BV and which are more important than the ones in the BV. The BV, of course, covers you for certain responsibilities and liabilities, but it's not a coverage to come out of the entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Still, you need to meet a lot of criteria to be treated as an entrepreneur for tax authorities. So this is also one of the biggest mistakes people are making in taxes when we talk about such topics. Another thing I think overall is like the business car is also a funny thing, which we see going a lot wrongly and causing a lot of corrections afterwards by the authorities. Is like you want to buy a car. The standard question we get always is, should we buy it on the business or should we buy it in private? What do you have? Do you have the name of the business? I know what kind of car you're driving. Not everyone needs to know, but
it's on the business. But yeah, there's still discussions on how to do it effectively.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. Like, you already made a decision while you don't know what the outcome is, perhaps, because you say it's still going on. This is also what happens usually. People who do not have a good advisor, they take instant decisions, buying the car. And at that moment, they need to decide immediately, like business or private. But putting a business private could have a huge impact on you. The car that you bought could have like 20, 30,000 euros of more cost over a year of 5 years, let's say. So it's really important when you buy a car to decide what the expenses are. Why am I telling this? Like, why is there like a lot of problem about this? So people are buying the car, putting it on the name of the business because they think I get the VAT back. That's like a standard thing, you know? VAT back, yes, I paid less for the car. Then I can depreciate the car in 5 years, so finally I'm paying less. But then we have the benefit in kind. And the benefit in kind is a certain amount based on the car, a percentage on the new value of the car.
The bytelling.
The bytelling, indeed, yeah. So I could buy the car for 50, but if the new value is 250, then based on that new value, I'm paying a bytelling, the benefit in kind. So the question when you raise to me is it better to buy a car on private or on business? The first thing I'm asking you is, which car? Specifically, I want to know. And even if you say like it's a Volkswagen, for example, I'm asking you which type, which year, which specs, and what is the new value of the car. Only based on that, I can calculate whether it's more beneficial to have it on the business or private. It's not only a car. You cannot come to me with a question, I want to buy a car, what is more beneficial? Then I need to send you back. Then the first thing I'm saying is just select the car first. And then come to me, because only based on that specific type of car, I can calculate. And sometimes buying a Porsche could be more beneficial than buying maybe a Volkswagen, for example. You know, it's really depending on the type of car. Because if the depreciation of a Porsche is less than a Volkswagen, on a long term, my benefits would be higher than buying that Volkswagen, for example. And that's also the reason, as a car fanatic, sometimes buying a Ferrari isn't that bad on a business. As long as you don't drive it too much, and as long as you keep the value of the car, you can depreciate, you can consider the costs, and then we'll come to the point. The bytelling is only applicable if you drive the car more than 500 kilometers a year. So it comes there on a point that you need to have the books, the administratie, where you can show that you're not driving the car more than 500 kilometers. So if you're buying an expensive car, 300-400K, for example, and you're not driving it much, let's say marketing purposes, you don't have the bytelling, but you can consider all the expenses of the car to lower your taxable base to have more benefits. And sometimes that could bring you much more money than buying a stupid car, which is depreciating, putting it on a business, and then pay more bytelling than what actually the costs of the car are. A good example is like a Volkswagen Golf, for example. The bytelling is higher than the expenses you have on that car. So these are little things that you need to consider.
Yeah, what about leasing versus buying? Is there also like a difference you need to make?
For sure, yeah, for sure. Leasing, buying is definitely a consideration you need to make. And I think this is not like even a tax question, it's a financial question that we need to raise. And the question is as follows, in my opinion. The money that I'm leasing, one, do I have that money aside for myself? Mm-hmm. If you don't have it aside, I wouldn't even buy that car. This is my principle. Yeah. Why? You're not going to live stronger than you are. So if you don't have that money to buy that car, don't buy it. That's it. Secondly, if you have the money, the only decision you need to make is the cost that I'm having on that lease. Can I make more with my own money? If the answer is yes, then yes, of course, make use of the leasing system. Let the banks pay your car and your own money, use it as an investment or other things to make that grow. If the leasing interest is 8-9% nowadays, but easily when you invest in S&P 500 and it's making an average of 15-16%, I would put my money there, not in the car. Yeah. So the decision, and that's also something we help clients with, like if they want to buy a car, this is also a question, like should I lease or should I pay it immediately? I'm always saying, what do you do with your money? If you're putting it on a saving account, which is giving you 1%, definitely buy that car with your own money. But if you like to take risks and you can invest in the S&P 500 or Tesla shares or whatever, which is increasing a lot, or Bitcoin, then I would say like, yeah, do that and lease the car because it will outbalance the expenses against the income that you have. So this also depends on the person. This is not an answer I can give to everyone on the same way. It depends on you, it depends on the other. If you're more of a risky person, I can give you the risky advice. If you're more of a safe person, I will give you the safe advice. But never buy a car on lease if you cannot make more money than the lease itself. Why? The car, good example, 100,000 euro car, which is quite normal nowadays. Yeah, because like, okay, Teslas are like 40, 50, but an average car, even like a Volkswagen Golf GTI, for example, you know, I like cars, so I like the upper level, 80,000 euros, new value of the car. When you buy such a car for 100K, and there is a 9% of interest each year, 9,000 euros. It's
crazy.
Times 5, because the average timeline of leasing is 5 years, 45,000 euros, which is 50% of the car itself.
Yeah.
And imagine that car after 5 years is only worth 20,000 euros. So how much did you lost? 80 plus 45.
Yeah.
You lost 125,000 euros in 5 years of time.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so if you don't think like that, you're cutting in your own fingers. And just buy that car, fine, but I won't buy a car which I'm losing 125,000 euros in 5 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You never think about it like that, is it?
No, I think about it. Also, especially when it comes to leasing, I don't buy the car. When I lease it, but then obviously you have to make net positive. You have to make more money than what you buy for the lease or pay for the lease, obviously.
Yeah.
But the newer generation is probably like more, not conservative, but they want to spend the money and drive the nice car.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I think like the car is like an important thing also for an entrepreneur, because some way they show like what their success is based on the car. And I agree on that. Sometimes it helps. Depending on your business, it could help. But you need to be careful. Like again, a Porsche maybe could be a good investment if it is a 911, but if it is a Cayenne, it could be like a worse investment, for example. Also with the Volkswagen I'm mentioning, or the Mercedes that we can talk about. Look at the car. And having a nice car, yes, is good. But on the other side, think about it as an entrepreneur. If it doesn't give you business, then consider it as an expense. And just drive like a Volkswagen Up, for example. Don't care what people are thinking about. But have a nice car besides. You know, I'm also looking to that, like drive for 5 days in a Volkswagen Up. But in the weekend, take your Porsche out, enjoy that moment, and show other ones that you do have a car like that, but not too extensively.
That's good. We'll talk about it after the podcast
We
as
will,
well.
we will.
What about the foundation thing? Because a lot of people, I think, don't know that you hear about these rumors, there's a foundation that you can, and then you could buy art, buy gold, whatever, buy watches.
Yeah.
What about the foundation thing? Is it also an individual choice you have to make? And do you have to be rich/wealthy to do that? Or when is the right time to think about a foundation? And there's probably rules attached to it, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of rules indeed. I do think you need to be wealthy to make use of it. Secondly, it doesn't work for everyone because it's a long-term investment that you're making. Like if you're earning 100K, it isn't worth, to even discuss or to start that kind of things.
How much should you be making roughly?
Yeah, there is no reference point for it because it's also, most of the time, it's a family decision that you make. It's not like only sole. And I think that's also a difference in time right now where we're in. We always think about ourselves individually, but there are still families, which I really appreciate to see, even clients that I have, which are like actual families. Their wealth, the money they have, the assets that they're having, they're all common. They're managing it together. There are parents and the children, and they all manage to keep each other wealthy and, to keep each other in a satisfying way. But unfortunately, there are not a lot of people like that anymore. So each time we think individually, and when you need to make individual decisions, it's more expensive than when you have 10 people wanting to do the same. So when you have that kind of ideas, it's too complex to talk about it right now because it will take a lot of time. But I think if we do one step back, that's more important. Especially what I also see from expats, from internationals. They come here, but they don't think about their future. They don't think about their children. Like I have children, you have children, and what is their future? And their future is that hopefully, if nothing happens, they're going to receive our money and the assets that we're having. Which means when I pass away, we have the erfbelasting in the Netherlands, the inheritance tax. That means we already need to look to the future to make sure that when my children receive my money, my assets, and so on, that they're not going to pay as much as taxes that I did already pay on what I'm doing now. And there are easy ways for that also to manage now already, at least for your children. Which means if you manage that in a timely way before you pass away, and I think this is also like a typical Dutch culture, if you look to my background, I'm Turkish, for example. Dutch people already think about that whole procedure up front. They go to the notary, they arrange their act, and when they pass away, the notary is coming with a nice sheet like, you're getting this, you're getting that, and you're getting that. And there are no fights between family members, when the money comes into the system. So at this point, before even going to big steps, think about the small steps, which you can easily arrange already towards your children to prevent that they are going to pay more taxes than needed in the future. If you act step by step in small pieces, you'll have more benefits than implementing immediately a difficult scenario to yourself.
That makes sense.
Did you think about your child?
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to act upon it. And the question is, do we have a good tax advisor to help you with this?
Yeah, or a notary. I also say like this kind of things, because these are future plans. A notary can also assist you with this kind of things. Because at the end of the line, when we make certain decisions tax-wise for children, we always need a notary to arrange certain facilities on paper. It's not only staying with the tax application itself. Because always remember yourself, I'm telling this to everyone also, taxes are like a moment that you file something for the past. The advice I'm giving you is future, but the advice I'm giving you is not being entered in the systems. It's only something on paper. Yeah. So the only person which can put it on paper actually towards the future is the notary. And the notary is giving a final conclusion on this is what is going to happen if something happens.
That makes sense.
Because, for example, I got a lot of clients which assigned me as a trusted advisor with the notary, for example. That means if they pass away, I decide what happens with their money. The only thing I can't do is giving it to myself, which is logic, of course. But I have a few clients which gave me the attorney, like if something happens to me, you decide which money goes to who. And you need to decide at that moment, based on the situation at that moment. So if one of my children is an alcoholic, a drugs addict, or something worse is happening, make sure that my child is not giving all my or receiving all my money. So I'm the one who needs to cover that at that moment.
That's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people are not even thinking about this kind of possibilities where, you can assign a third person if something happens. If I pass away tomorrow, because we don't know what life is bringing us, what is going to happen then with my money? Did I think about this already? And what if, for example, my wife is alone, for example, with the children? Do they need any coverage? Do I need an insurance? A good one, which I always say, like I have an insurance with my business partner. If he passes away, I get money. If I pass away, he gets money. Why? If I pass away, he needs to run the whole business.
Yeah.
And he needs to attract another director, partner, or whatsoever to make sure that everything runs perfectly. A lot of people are not thinking about this in their business. What happens if one key person is falling away? You need a lot of money to get that work being done. So it's not only about family, but also for your business. Always think towards the future. And an advisor needs to help you with this kind of decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because we're slowly running out of time.
Sure.
Maybe more of a critical question is, let's say you're in the middle layer, right? You're not poor, you're not rich, but you're kind of in the middle. You're kind of holding society to some extent. You're kind of the layer that holds society, because you're kind of providing for the poor, but the rich know how to evade taxes more strategically, they're more smart maybe when it comes to this. So what advice do you have for the kind of general population? It doesn't depend on the income. What should they do with their money? If they're poor, if they're in the middle class, if they're upper class?
What is poor, middle, high for you in terms of income?
It's a very good question. I'm not sure I don't know the statistics, but maybe, I know in the US it's like 35,000.
We're living in the Netherlands.
I don't know. You know the statistics? I have to guess.
It's funny, isn't it? That we sometimes talk about like poor, middle, and the high class people, but what is it actually?
I would probably
I don't know it myself neither. I'm just asking you, but I don't know it myself. I have a reference, but
probably I think the threshold is around 30K a year.
Yeah, to be middle.
To be middle, I think.
Yeah, it's 40 in the meantime, I think.
Okay.
Roughly. I don't know the exact figures. Yeah. Like I think starting point is around 18. That's like low income, as we call, until 30. Nowadays, I think 40 even. And I think high was somewhere starting around 90,000 already, because there were only a few percent of the whole Netherlands earning more than 90,000 euros, which is quite funny in my opinion, because if you look to social media again, I just recently started with social media. I was not that active.
Everybody is rich.
Everyone is rich. Everyone is talking about millions. Everyone is having expensive cars more than 100K. So somehow it's funny, but yeah, the thing is, maybe it's funny to say, the low incomes are the richest ones. Why? They don't pay much of taxes.
Yeah.
They get government support. They receive a lot of benefits. And finally, looking to their total income, it's going towards the beginning of the middle class. And a lot of people don't know this. When you have a low income, you get toeslag, as we call it, the surcharges, the benefits. You get compensations for your child. The municipality is giving you compensation for the rent of your house, for example. So we get a lot of benefits, which is pushing us towards the middle class. But a lot of people don't know. The middle class is paying most.
Yeah.
That's 100%. The middle class is always paying more because they are not eligible to the benefits anymore. And they are mostly in the highest tax bracket, because that one starts already around 70K of income. And then we got the higher ones. But the higher ones usually are entrepreneurs. Like the at least 100K earning ones. Either you have a good position in a big company, being director, CEO, CFO, either you're an entrepreneur. And because you're an entrepreneur, you can make use of more tax benefits if you manage it correctly. If you buy something, for example, you could, decide like what are the benefits when I'm buying it. If you buy a laptop, for example, what I say to a lot of people, you can rather buy a laptop of 2,800 than a laptop of 2,000 euros. You know why?
Why?
You ever heard about the Kia? Kleinschaligheid.
I've heard about it, yeah.
So if you buy a laptop of 2,800, you get 28% of an extra tax deduction on the value of that laptop. So if I get 30% of an extra deduction of 2,800, it's almost 800 euros extra deduction that I can get. So it lowers my income with 800 euros more, which means my benefit on that laptop is roughly, if you keep it on 50% for sole proprietors, is 400 euros. So 2,800 minus 400, I paid 2,400 euros for that laptop. And then my depreciation at the end of the line is also based on 2,800. So after 5 years of depreciation of that kind of laptop, I paid less than when I have a laptop of 2,000 euros. It's an example that I'm giving roughly, but so always as an entrepreneur, you also need to make decisions to benefit the system. And you can only do that if you have the money to buy things.
Absolutely.
And the middle class cannot, and the high class, they can.
Yeah.
The same as with the Porsche I mentioned.
Yeah.
If you're high class, you can afford an expensive car, which you can use only to depreciate the costs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Ferhat, thank you so much. I feel like we probably will have a second part
I hope
in
so.
the future.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe in your office then. It's not too far away.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
10 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And how can people find you?
You can find me on social media, of course. That's the first place where you need to be. Just look on Ferhat Sanci, or you can search on Bookie, which means a book means a book in this case. And the I, which you need to put at the end. It's actually a client which gave me this name because it comes from boekhouden. And boekhouden means bookkeeping. And he gave me the name of Bookie.
Okay.
So that's the name I always used also towards clients. But you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can find us on our website, profinancials.nl, where you can also find my contact details and where you can reach out to me.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you too for inviting, and definitely a second time.
100%.
Thank you.